Here we are. I don't know.
Here we are. That's a good way to start this off.
Bring on the Bucks. I don't know. I don't even know where to start. I don't like hyperbole, but you can say this is as bad, or if not one of the worst Patriots performances we've seen. We saw so many last year, though, so I don't want to exaggerate. But this was a lose in all phases of the game loss. And in such a complete and total way, begs the question: what, if anything, of the Patriots? I mean, again, defense did some things, but again, a 75 play drive when you absolutely needed a stop, kills you. So that's it. That's the ball game here. The Patriots, bad on offense, bad on defense, bad in special teams, total failure, just an embarrassing lopsided loss to the Saints. They looked like they were outmatched, not ready to play, and they're taking steps backwards, it looks like, Evan, right now, heading into a game that I don't think anybody really wants to see play out on the field the way this team is playing right now.
So this is what I'll say. The level-headed response to this game is that we're 3 games into a massive rebuild, right? On both sides of the football, a lot of new faces, a complete overhaul for the Patriots in a lot of ways, with the aggressive offseason in free agency, with the first-round quarterback. The level-headed response is to give the old relax, but the Aaron Rodgers special, right? And sit here and say, let's all relax. But what I'm seeing out of this team right now on both offense and defense that's more troublesome than any gap in talent that they might have against a particular opponent is just philosophically on offense and defense. I'm a little bit confused as to what they're doing, right?
I entirely. Yeah. Who are they and who do they want to be? There is zero. There's not even anything resembling an identity here.
Right. So I want to say level-headedly that it's 3 games into the season. 1-2 is far from an insurmountable hole, right? They can easily turn this around. And in the past, the Patriots have had slow starts to the season. But I sit here and I say, wow, okay, the offense that they're running right now is a training camp offense. These are plays that they run in training camp where there's no window dressing, there's no different looks, there's no unique packages with their new weapons. This is just straight football, right? 11 on 11, our guys against your guys. And when you don't have a huge gap in talent, when you're not way better than the other guys that you're going up against on the other side of the football, you need some fluff from your offensive coordinator, right? You need some tricks, you need some gadgets, you need some gizmos. You can't just go out there and line up 5 eligible receivers, drop Mac Jones back to pass, and expect to overwhelm the opponent with 07 Randy Moss, because you don't have that guy on this offense. So where is the misdirection? Where is the motion? Where is even play action or just deceptiveness or anything of that kind? And tempo, right? Right before the half, they finally get into a 2-minute drive and they go tempo and they actually move the football, right? And I just, offensively, I'm just really scratching my head as to what is where is Josh McDaniels unique right now with his designing or play calling. It's not just the play calling, the situational play calls. I asked Mac Jones in his post-game press conference about the red zone runs, and he took some of the responsibility for a few of those. He said, I changed the play at the line of scrimmage a couple of times when I shouldn't have, and I should have stuck with the original play. So maybe you can let McDaniels off the hook a little bit on some of those because of that. But overall, I just want to know from an offensive standpoint, where is the exotic stuff, right? Where is the unique stuff? Where is the flair? Well, I talked about motion. The Patriots are one of the least motion teams in the NFL pre-snap, moving guys around the formation, starting guys in motion, things like that. And we're not seeing any of that. We're seeing stagnant offense. We're seeing stagnant play calling. We're seeing poor situational play calling. And then defensively, you go into this game against Jameis Winston, who has been an absolute pumpkin all year against pressure, right? Anytime he gets pressure thrown in his face, Jameis craters. And he had a passer rating coming into this game of 33.8, I think it was. I have to look up the exact number against the blitz. And the Patriots didn't blitz him at all.
Yeah.
So you face a quarterback that can't beat the blitz. You decide not to blitz him, right? And then you get into a 3rd and 7 with 8:22 left. The game is on the line. The offense finally wakes up and makes this a 1-score game, and they rush 4. Jameis has all day in the pocket, and he makes a 12-yard completion and moves the chains, and they drive down the field for a touchdown. So what I look at now, after all the offseason moves, after drafting the quarterback in the 1st round, after signing tight ends Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith, all of these additions, is what is the coaching staff doing? Because I know that questioning Bill Belichick and the Patriots coaching staff is seen as a little bit of a hot take, but you start to look at some of the things that these other teams are doing, and you wonder, just this looks very vanilla and very just basic concepts from the Patriots.
Right. I mean, it really is. I know we not joke about it. We talk about Belichick's, first 4 games are kind of preseason-y sort of thing. And, you don't start to see some of the stuff or what the team's going to be for a while. But that's fine and good to play it conservative if you're executing in all phases, but they're not. They're sloppy as hell. All over the place, from the drops to the penalties. Hunter Henry running 30 yards downfield before the snap, on a 4th. I mean, just some of this stuff is, yeah, you can play vanilla. You just have to, you got to execute it. If you are playing teams that you think are going to beat themselves, you can't be the one that beats yourself when you do that. They're not putting any pressure on teams offensively or defensively at all. They're easy to play against right now, Evan.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. They're easy to play against. And the reason why they're so easy to play against offensively, especially, is because what they're calling is so vanilla and so basic. And you look at some of these good offenses in the NFL, you look at the Kansas Cities and the Tampa Bays and teams like that, their hallmarks offensively are using all of the tricks that offensive coordinators and play designers use to give their skill position players advantages before the snap, right? Things like motion, things like play action, things that give those guys opportunities to catch and run with the football at full speed. And the Patriots, the word that I would use for their offense right now, and not just because they can't move the football, but just in general, when you watch them play, is stagnant. Right? They go out there, they run their 5 guys eligible out to their spots, and they stand there and they hike the ball. There's no motion, there is no window dressing, there is no creativity, there's nothing. It's just stagnant. And if you're going to be that type of offense in 2021, unless, like I said, and like you said, you have overwhelming skill talent, you're going to be a lousy offense. There's just no way that you can be a good offense like that unless you're running out Tyreek Hill and DK Metcalf and 5 great receivers and a good quarterback and a good offensive line. Your execution has to be flawless for you to play like that. And especially when you have a rookie quarterback, it's just a really tricky situation to be so vanilla.
Yeah, and again, they can't be flawless because they barely know one another. They're really still getting to know one another on the offensive side of the ball because Mac didn't really rep with the starters. You had Henry was limited, Agholor was limited. So there's a lot of stuff out there. And then Jonnu Smith, absolutely. I mean, he's obviously target number 1, I think, for a lot of Patriots fans today. And justifiably, I mean, this guy's supposed to be a playmaker here. That play to start the second half was one of the least athletic things I've ever seen in my life. I mean, he just fell over himself. It looked like he lateraled it to the receiver. I mean, it was just awful. So you're not getting anything out of anybody right now. And that's the thing. And what we're going to keep coming back to is it play calling, scheme, design? Are these guys not that good right now? And then it looked like even when Mac was pressing it downfield, he was throwing to guys. A lot of those were 50-50 balls. He was throwing to guys who were covered. Not a lot of really open guys. And again, I'll always defer to you with your vantage point from the press box there. You're able to see the entire field. I don't know what Mac was looking at. We know for one, the entire first half, the pocket was collapsing instantly. He had people in his face before he even had a chance to get his feet set. That's hard for any quarterback, certainly one who can't escape the pocket like Mac can. I thought he did a decent job hanging in there and, moving within, a collapsing pocket, if sometimes outside of it when he needed to. I'll give him props for that, but it didn't look like, he could find anything. They couldn't get anything going.
No, there wasn't much down the field open from
Nothing.
my original view of the game, but I would say that in a couple of instances there was stuff open down the field and the pressure took it away from Mac. He actually dropped a really nice pass into Jonnu Smith along the sideline. That was Jonnu's first drop, right? The pocket was totally collapsed on Mac, and he teardropped one into Jonnu Smith anyway, and I thought Smith had a pretty good chance to catch that ball, and it goes off his hands. Really, if you want to nitpick Mac's performance today, it felt to me there are two things, right? One, he said after the game that he checked out of some passing plays into run plays in the red zone. Specifically, I asked him about the 3rd and 1. He didn't directly reference that, but when you say I could have stuck to some calls in the huddle, the original play call, and not gotten too cute with it, it felt like he answered my question about the 3rd and 1 to Bolden, that maybe that was Jones's decision to check out of that play. And you did see the helmet tap and a little bit of cadence there before the ball was snapped at the line of scrimmage. So maybe he did check out of that one specifically, but the other, there really isn't much to nitpick him about. I mean, the first interception, maybe you would like him to eat it, I guess, but I don't know. He steps away from pressure into pressure, and what you're consistently seeing with this offensive line that speaks to the coaching problems that the Patriots are having as well is it's not the one-on-one pass rush situations. It's the scheme pressures, which I mean by that blitzes, stuns, picks, twists, all that kind of stuff that they're doing up front with the blitz. All those types of things stand out to me as mental errors by the offensive line. These are not physical errors that the offensive line is just not capable of picking these guys up. Right. The issues that I'm seeing are mental. Guys getting through unblocked, guys not passing off stunts to one another. Right. On the first interception, they run a linebacker D-tackle twist up front, and Mac steps up away from the pressure on the edges, steps up into the pocket, and David Andrews and Shaq Mason don't pass off the stun. So there's a guy, he steps right into a hit, right? And that's when he hits the ball, the arm, and while he's throwing it, and it's picked off. So you look at those types of schemed pressures and scheme pressure packages by these defenses, and they're having all sorts of issues picking up these blitzes and these stunt games and things like that. And you point again to who's coaching these guys, right? I mean, what's the situation here? Who is getting these guys mentally ready for these types of situations? Because I really don't think the offensive line issues are that physical. Like, you don't just lose Trent Brown and one guy is a house of cards and the whole thing comes crashing down.
But I don't think
it's unlikely.
I don't think anybody is playing at the level that we expected them to. I don't think Wynn has had a particularly good season. Obviously, you've got the issue at the right tackle spot there, and that's been a problem. But it looks like it's kind of caving in from everywhere. I don't know if you're grading out lineman by lineman on all of their pass pro, but let's just put it this way: it's a line. When something is supposed to be considered a strength and it's a borderline weakness right now, I don't think it's all attributable to just one person. And that's very concerning because you couldn't check a lot of boxes on this team before the season began and say, we're good here. Okay. And I know tackle depth was an issue and it's already being strained early in the year. And certainly that's a problem, but the line is not. It was supposed to be a top 5 line, and it's not. It's not opening holes, and it's not protecting nearly as well as it needs to. And that's definitely a concern for a quarterback who needs to be protected. He needs to have a pocket to throw.
Yeah, and he's, like you said, a pocket passer, right? This is not a mobile quarterback, and not that even mobile quarterbacks would necessarily do a ton with the pressure that he's facing. But in order to have Mac Jones succeed, he's going to have to be protected well. And right now what we're seeing is just a complete breakdown on the offensive line. And I come back to the first point that I was making was this is a lot of this to me with the offensive line right now is continuity, chemistry, mental type of issues, right? It's not one-on-one physical battles lost. And this is another unit with the offensive line, in my mind, that is underperforming. I think their talent is better than what they're performing at right now, especially the other 4 guys on the line. You can say what you want about the right tackle position, but Shaq Mason, David Andrews, Mike Onwenu, and Isaiah Wynn are solid NFL offensive linemen, and they're not getting it done. So it looks to me like this is an underperforming unit, which in that case, points again, I think, to the coaching that they're getting, right? And we've talked about it a little bit, but
here we go. We made it 3 games without mentioning Scarnecchia, but you're going to do it here.
I was going to do that in a second. I was going to start with Cole Popovich opting out of the season, right?
Yeah.
Cole Popovich, Patriots co-offensive line coach, along with Carmen Brasillo, couple days before training camp, decides he's not going to get vaxxed and he opts out of the season, right?
Yep,
and that will put all of it on Brasillo's shoulders. Then they bring in Billy Yates, who's a former NFL offensive lineman. The Patriots players, the O-line guys, they've been heaping praise on Billy Yates, saying how great he is and things like that. And yeah, you do talk about a couple of years ago, they got by without it at times last year, it felt like, but Dante Scarnecchia's retirement, and maybe you look at some of this coaching turnover as well starting to rear its ugly head with the Patriots is also, because I don't think this offensive line talent-wise is as bad as they're currently playing. And Ashton, that is a very good second guess 3 weeks into the season, right? You paying those 3 guys big money, you let Joe Thuney walk in the offseason, and you do wonder what would this product look better if they had kept that interior 3 together. Now, they tried to be fair, in full transparency, they tried to keep Joe Thuney anyways, right? They had all this money to throw around, and they tried bidding war with Kansas City to keep Joe Thuney, and the money just got absolutely crazy. So I don't know if necessarily it was a lack of effort by any means on the part of the Patriots to keep Joe Thuney.
And honestly, I'm as certain that Scarnecchia is going to at some point rejoin this team in some capacity as
I keep on pulling Dante Scarnecchia out of retirement out of desperation, because that's what they did the first time too.
I am as certain of it as I am that David Krejci is going to be playing playoff hockey for the Bruins. Both of these things are a done deal. Scar will be back at some point this season, I guarantee. So let's get into some of the weapons here, and this is going to be I want to hit 2 things. Okay, while we're on coaching, I want to hit this first.
Yeah.
Of all things right now, I think the person with the target on his back more than anybody is Josh McDaniels.
Yeah.
And I can't figure it out. And we've been trying since last week to figure out, is it conservative because they're trying to take
year? That's
this last year. Yes, it's good. It's been going for a bit, but again, you assumed it was personnel limitations. You could only do so much, and you saw, how many games last year early in games are they running gadgets? Because they knew they couldn't get anything going conventionally, and you're like, oh, he's trying everything he can here. He knows they can't just go back there and just play and drop back and hit guys out. It's just not happening with this team. But this year, I understand it a great deal less. A rookie or no rookie, again, I don't think Mac Jones is any worse than today a starting NFL caliber quarterback. He's better than 7, 8, 10 people starting right now, even despite the fact that he's still learning things on the fly. So just play freaking football, I'm so confused by what's happening on that side of the ball. I can't understand it at all.
Yeah, yesterday my lead in my mailbag was taking aim a little bit at Josh McDaniels, because the point that I want to stress and hammer home is that we are going on 26 games, almost 2 full seasons of this vanilla play calling, of this lack of offense since week 11, 2019.
Back to Brady's last year.
Right.
Exactly.
So, which is halfway through Brady's year. Last year, right after that Baltimore game, the Patriots head into the bye week. They come out of that bye week and they play Philadelphia, and they put together one of the worst offensive performances that we've seen in the Brady era, right? And since in that 26 game sample, the Patriots are 27th in the NFL in points per game, 27th. So this goes back to 7 games of Brady, 16 games with Cam Newton, now 3 games of Mac Jones, a slew of different skill players in there, offensive line, run game. They've tried everything, right? And we can only sit here and blame the talent and the personnel so much, right? We can only blame the players so much. At some point,
you've changed the quarterback and all the personnel on the offensive side of the ball, and right.
McDaniels has stuff to work with now. And that's what I keep on harping on. Last year, and Las Vegas with the Raiders. Nelson Agholor had 900 yards and 8 touchdowns with the Raiders. And that offense, Darren Waller is their number one, right? He's a great player, but that offense is not the '07 Patriots, right? They don't have skill talent all over the field. So it wasn't like he was wide open all the time because they were worried about other guys. Nelson Agholor, 900 yards, 8 touchdowns. Last year with Tennessee, Jonnu Smith, 9 touchdowns in the red zone. Last year with the Chargers, Hunter Henry, almost 700 receiving yards, 6 touchdowns. Kendrick Bourne, 650 receiving yards with San Francisco. These are NFL skill talent players. These are NFL pass catchers. These are not Demir Bird. This is not, Ryan Izzo. We're not in that category anymore. They have real offensive playmakers, and they are not making plays. And at some point, you have to sit back and look at the offensive coordinator. But I'll go back just to be fair and be impartial a little bit here to my initial point, which is the level-headed response is to remain patient with this, right? And sit back and say, in the big picture, this is 3 games into Mac Jones's career, and there's a really long way to go. But what I keep on harping or coming back to is that 26-game sample that I just mentioned. At the philosophy of the play calling just is not.
That's the thing is
it's not just Mac Jones or the playmaker.
It's everything. Yeah.
Right.
You saw it with Cam, you saw it with Brady, you're seeing it with Mac, you're seeing it with different backs, different receivers. It's baffling at this point. And again, you're trying to resist hyperbole and trying to resist overreacting. But at what point does a person who was a young, innovative, fresh play caller, you start to wonder, does he need to change it up a little bit? You
start to wonder, because a lot of these guys, not to cut you off, but a lot of these guys, John Gruden, Mike McCarthy in Green Bay, they burn out. They burn out, and
you can only be innovative for so long. Exactly. Right. Like you've only got so many good ideas. At some point you wonder, you need some kind of, this is why you see so many like high school coaches and college coaches kind of come into these coordinator type roles, because they're doing different things and more innovative sort of stuff. And the Patriots are stuck in the mud right now with the offense.
Yeah. And early on in this game, and look, I don't know. Only Josh McDaniels and Mac Jones really know if those play calls in the huddle were passes or throws, right? I have no idea. But in the first quarter, they're getting 2 high shells from the Saints, which with the Patriots, especially when you get too high look, when you get those safeties both up and one of them's not in the box, that's an immediate check to a run, right? Yeah. They always, especially on first down, they always run it against 2 high shells. Today, they were throwing against 2 high shells, running against 1 high, right? It was all backwards, right?
Yeah, it's almost like
maybe that some of that is on the rookie, right? Maybe some of that is on Mac.
For sure. There's always that. I also always think, and this is, if you're going to talk about one potential knock on Bill Belichick, I always feel that when he goes against a high caliber coach who he respects, he sometimes outthinks himself a little bit. In some cases too. That's happened in the past, where it's kind of like, that's just what they'll be expecting me to do, sort of thing. And so just, trying too hard to do the unexpected versus what's going to work in this situation, that's been a thing before. I'm not saying that's what happened at all today. And this could be on Mac checking into stuff or not checking into stuff at the line. So again, it's hard to say entirely. But let's move on, because, off the coaches and onto the weapons here. It's so hard. It's so hard to slice this blame pie, because you're not sure if it's the O-line, if it's a rookie QB, if it's a play calling. But again, you went out and you paid for some playmakers. They have to make plays. That's the point, is when things are tough, you want these guys to be able to make a play, save you, do something. Certainly not the opposite of make a play, which is what Jonnu Smith was doing all day in critical moments. Obviously none bigger than that one in the second to start the second half, which was, just obviously a game-defining play and one that it was, almost impossible for them to come back from at that point, the way the offense was moving.
So Kendrick Bourne was the first guy today to show some life, right? The 32-yard catch before the half, the touchdown catch later on in the second half in the fourth quarter. Finally, a guy that they signed in the offseason going out there and doing exactly what you just said, make a play, right? Just make a damn play for somebody,
exactly,
right?
but you need it.
Yeah, and Kendrick Bourne finally was someone that seemed to step up. And the one thing that I just will say from a personnel standpoint, it definitely felt like they were more successful. And I would have to go look at the numbers because this might be the case over the first 3 weeks of the season, actually, based off the eye test. They seem to be more successful in 11 personnel than 12 personnel. When they put both tight ends on the field, for whatever reason, it's not working. I don't know if it's a speed issue with Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith both being a little bit slower for their bigger guys, right? I don't know if it's a play calling issue or they just don't have the package designed properly right now. I don't know. But whenever they've gone 11 personnel, they seem to have found more of a rhythm with the 3 wide receiver packages versus the 2 tight end sets. So maybe that's something that they found here at the end of the game. With Jonnu, he has always been a player in Tennessee that is essentially an H-back. I would almost call him a borderline gadget player, right? Somebody that is just supposed to be schemed and created opportunities with scheme, whether it's one-on-one balls down the field or things behind the line of scrimmage, screens, slide routes, bootleg actions, things like that, right? Leaking out into the flats and running with the football. And what I have seen them do with him for the first 3 weeks of the season is really turn him into more of a traditional wide tight end. And I just don't think that is his game. That's what Hunter Henry's game is, right? And if you need that role and you're going to go 11, then maybe put Hunter Henry into that role and only bring.
No, but you thought he's more the Hernandez here. Jonnu would be
Army knife specialized type of player. And I think they're still tinkering with the ways to figure out how to use him properly in the offense, because I asked Jonnu about this during the week and I said, how many conversations do you have with Josh McDaniels? How many back and forths do you have with Josh McDaniels about, okay, I'm not really good at this, but I'm good at that, right? Or put me here, but don't put me there. And feedback from the player, right? And he went on this answer about how smart Josh McDaniels is and how he doesn't need his input. And he's just here trying to fit the Patriots mold, right? He's trying to put himself in the Patriots offense instead of changing the Patriots offense to fit him. Well, it's Josh McDaniels' job to change the Patriots offense to fit the personnel that he has out on the field. And right now, I think they're putting a round hole in a square peg at times with John, or opposite of that, right? With Jonnu out there, just trying to turn him into a more conventional tight end, when in reality, he's a do-it-all type of player, right? He's somebody that should really have the ball in his hands and run with it more than, okay, it's man coverage, go beat your guy on a nice route or cross over the middle, fight through some contact, get the football and run with it like he did on the play that they were trying to do on the play that he went to the pick 6.
But
right?
This is all fine and good, Evan, and your assessment of Jonnu, in the type of player he is and the type of player he needs to be for this team is spot on. But what? Then you have to go back to the offseason. Is this what you needed? Did you need gadget players? Is this, you're addressing needs, and this was your day one splurge. First guy I need is Jonnu Smith, which means you got to have a pretty freaking good idea what you're going to do with Jonnu Smith when he gets here. It means you targeted him and you thought he's perfect for this offense, and you know exactly how you're going to use him. And then you go and do this, and this is what we have, and this is what it looks like. Makes no sense to me. So it can't be your A1A target, and you're still figuring him out right now. If you go back to, and again, this is obviously a trade, but like in a Wes Welker situation, back in, this guy's perfect for us. That's what you're supposed to be doing, is identifying needs, not just saying, let's just buy a bunch of guys because the ones we have now suck. So as the day one, hour one, moment one signing of this team, it's so bizarre to me that this is what's happening with Jonnu right now. I thought he'd be the switch to Army knife, but he'd get the ball in his hands 10, 12 times a game on a bunch of creative things. And as you said, maybe some jet sweeps going across the field, being able to run after the catch. I don't know what they're doing right now.
That's exactly it. Is you thought that what you're describing are what I would call scheme touches, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You thought they would get creative with it and get
move him around, run him wide
right.
in the slot, in the backfield, lots of different things, But
Right.
again, hand down, straight tight end, get up and run and try to whatever. And it's not
his game. And that's exactly what they've been doing with him. And it's puzzling. And this is what I come back to. And I'm not trying to make excuses for the players not executing properly. The catch that led to the pick six from Jonnu, he's got to have that one, right? I mean, it's not McDaniels' fault that ball bounces off his hands and pops up in the air and lands in the lap of Malcolm Jenkins and he runs it back for a pick six, right? That's not Josh McDaniels' fault that the player did that. But putting him in a position to succeed is what Josh McDaniels' job is, and that's not necessarily putting Jonnu Smith in positions to succeed. And I hope that they found something with that 11 personnel package today in the second half. It felt like putting Kendrick Bourne in the game, going 3 wide, and running with a little bit of tempo is something that they found to be successful and really led to that touchdown drive. And actually, in the 2 minute before the half, that was all 11 personnel too. And they had some tempo to it as well, obviously, in the 2 minute drill. So maybe that's something that they can figure out, right? Yeah. Maybe that's something that they can lean their hat on moving forward.
Yeah. So I know, not moving around, just a couple different things that were of interest. And again, this is game 3 again without seeing much from Agholor. They took a couple of shots downfield. I actually thought the one that he had the step, does that look like Agholor needed to run to the hashes there? It looked like a miscommunication about the ball placement when he had a step on his man. Again, I can't remember the exact situation, but it was that in the second quarter.
Yeah, he threw it deep under pressure, and the ball just didn't go where.
Right. So, Max looking at Nelson Agholor's looking outside shoulder, but as a receiver, you're not supposed to be, you kind of run that one off as a post there towards the middle of the field. As a quarterback, you really want to try to get that between the hashes, right?
Yeah.
I thought Mac put that in the right spot, but I'm not sure.
I would have to go back and really watch it from the All-22, but by the look of it, watching it live, it looked to me like there was either no deep safety or the safety was elsewhere.
The safety had not reacted yet. It was and hadn't come over yet. You could have thrown it to middle of the field and still gotten away with it, but it might have been a pressure. It might have just been a pressure misthrow by Mac where he just got rid of it and it floated outside, or it floated to that side and he meant to throw it outside shoulder. But
so one of the bigger things that I'm seeing with the Patriots wide receivers, which is definitely something that the Patriots asked their receivers to do a little bit more than maybe other teams, is read off leverage and break off leverage, right? And so last week this happened with Hunter Henry where he restacked the Jets defender, and if he broke out on the corner route, he was going to dust the defender and be wide open for a touchdown, and instead he broke inside and into the leverage instead of outside, and that really threw off the entire play. The play with Agholor down the field felt like the corner was sitting outside of him and he broke into the leverage instead of breaking inside away from it. So that is often easier in a lot of ways for the quarterback to read out than the receiver, right? Because the quarterback is seeing it from his vantage point, is able to see the body positioning of all the defenders. But yeah, breaking off of leverage has been a little bit of I wouldn't call it a concern quite yet, because it is a learned skill, right? It is something that takes some time to develop, but certainly something that's a work in progress for a lot of these receivers. I also thought that there was an opportunity later on in the game where he did get it right and he did break on the post, and Mac was sacked. His eyes were downfield. He's waiting to throw it, and
he just couldn't get it off.
He gets sacked. And the number that we harped on last week, the air yards, right? 12.4 air yards per attempt for Mac Jones today. So almost double what we saw, or actually almost triple what we saw last week. So he was way more aggressive throwing the ball down the field. And like I said,
they took shots like at Agholor. They took a few this week. So that's good. Again, part of it is a time issue. A couple of them are just a touch long, but definitely took a shot or two, which is better at least, because you're trying to incorporate him into the game, doing the things that he does best. So if you're going to take, I'll view this as a little bit negative, and I'll view this in both columns. You want to see more from Agholor, but at least they're starting to try to get him the ball downfield, and the air yard certainly was a little bit more encouraging. I still think, though, through 3 games, Mac has not thrown into the end zone.
No, and maybe look, I don't want to take blame away from what I have been trashing McDaniels the entire show, but that quote that Matt gave after the game about checking into some run plays in the red zone, I think speaks to at least a couple of those run plays that they ended up handing the ball off to Brandon Bolden. So yeah, Bolden in the game, I think from a coaching perspective, you would think that that's a pass, right? You think you're going to throw the football with him. So
what was going on with those back-to-back Bolden runs? My God, I almost forgot that.
Yeah. So hopefully,
that's what I forgot.
I want to say hopefully that was Mac.
That was Mac, that better have been Mac, not McDaniels.
Right, and they can, if it was Mac, not McDaniels, then they'll fix that. Right, they'll be able to fix that, no problem.
Exactly, because that's Patriots Twitter collectively exploded on that second carry. Hi, Alex Barth. Look at this guy.
What a dickhead.
We can't say that. Can't say that. Sponsors don't like that.
Oh, no. He's getting me in trouble left and right. Classic.
Yeah, no, it's all good. So that's what we have on Agholor. I guess that the other thing that happened was James White. The way everyone's talking about him is like not only lost for the season. This could be the last snap we see James White play. I don't want to jump to conclusions, but everybody was very upset and down and prayers up and that kind of thing. So, the hip injury looked like one of those subluxation sort of situations, but you never know if and when they get him back on the field. So that first off, hopefully that ends up better, it's better than it looked, but he had to be carted off the field. So that's certainly not a good sign. What is interesting here was how it threw the whole kind of backfield into disarray. They did not get anything going on the ground early, but once White went down, holy wow, did you expect you'd see this much Brandon Bolden in this game?
No.
I don't fully understand that at all. So, and I understand you've benched Stevenson because of that one fumble, and you kneecap yourself in an injury situation because honestly, you would have liked to see Stevenson a little bit more in a game like this if he's ready, but he's got the skill set where he can be that guy here. And honestly, he has to be active in the next game, I would think, if White is gone. But a whole lot of Bolden. Harris didn't get anything going at all. Your leading rusher on the day was Mac Jones. So this was a mess, all game long in the backfield.
You're going to hate what I'm about to say. Everybody's going to hate what I'm about to say about the Brandon Bolden snap.
But you liked it.
I didn't like it, but the answer is that they are more confident in Brandon Bolden's ability to pass protect and hang on to the football than JJ Taylor right now.
We've done this already, right?
My guess is it's the pass protection, right? That's probably the biggest one that stands out, is being able to hold up in pass pro, especially when your offensive line's getting destroyed in the game, right? And you have another guy that can be reliable and stand in there and take a backer on in the hole or whatever the case may be. JJ Taylor at 5'5" is not helping out the pass protection, right? He's a speed bump on the way to the quarterback. So I think that's the biggest thing that you look at with Bolden. Now, did I think that he was great in pass pro? No, I thought that there was some times where Bolden definitely missed a few blocks here and there, or wasn't the best overall. But the
pass blocker in name only, right?
The coaching staff will tell you that the reason why Bolden was in the game was because he's reliable, right? He's somebody that they can trust.
They did I feel like we did that reliable thing last year too, and it was very frustrating because you had veterans playing over younger, more athletic players who you'd want to see, get in on the action, and some of those players were playing out of position, being asked to do things they normally don't do. And in Brandon Bolden's case, it's carry the freaking football or be part of the actual offense. If you're in there specifically to pass block, great. But incidentally, you're going to end up with the ball in your hands from time to time if you're on the field for that many snaps. And that's what happened. And he's just not a playmaker. And right now they're just wanting for playmakers, and they need more of them on the field wherever they can get them. So I get the rationale behind it, but it's another kind of a curious situation. So now, Evan, all
right, we're talking Bucks already. Okay, can we talk defense real quick? Just before
fine. Defense was okay. You got 30 seconds.
defense.
No, go ahead.
Defense held them in the game, 14 points, right? Until the end of the game there. They kept the Patriots in the game. I thought Matt Judon, who has all summer long held this torch and has now continued to hold the torch into the regular season, the best free agent signing Bill Belichick made this offseason.
Clearly.
Matthew Judon, a great player, was great again today. 3rd and 7, 8:22, game is on the line. You get rush 4, you get nobody home, and they get a 3rd and 12. They get a 12-yard completion on 3rd and 7. They move the chains. That's when the game was lost. So, and what on the big picture, right, macro look, the defense looks much better than the offense. The micro look is the defense still can't stop them when they absolutely had to at the end of the game.
And again, so it's easy to point to the Damian Harris fumble against Miami as the reason they lost, but ultimately that drive where they took it right down the field and scored was one where you got to be able to stop a team like that. And again, here, when you make this a 1-score game, you let them shove it down your throat in this game. And those two things were the game in both cases. I mean, there's no guarantee that you're going to come back and score and get the 2 points here, but you gave yourself no chance.
Exactly.
So the defense did not step up when it needed to. And yes, we are now going to begin what is going to be 8 straight days.
John's favorite week of the year.
I don't like it because what are we going to talk about? Like, there is no, what do you talk about even?
How do the Patriots keep this a game?
Yeah, I mean, so the what's funny is based off of everything we know with the Patriots, it's very likely that it'll be way more competitive than we expect it to be because they'll figure out a way. But there's just no vibe and no hype to this game other than I get to see my favorite player Tom return to New England. Like that's about it at this point. Because what else are you looking for? You're looking for a win. You're looking for the Mac versus Brady thing. I think McCourty had the best soundbite after the game. Like, we're not good enough to be thinking about headlines or what anybody is talking about regarding this game. And they're not. Like, you could get excited if it was like, okay, Patriots are playing pretty well. Let's see this game. Right now, it's just trepidation. It's, okay, there's Tom Brady, and he's going to come in and he's going to put up 70 points, and you're going to, as bad as you feel now, I think Patriots fans are worried that they're going to feel 100 times worse, come Sunday night next week.
Yeah, it's not a bad stance to take that the Patriots are simply not good enough to really get super hyped up about this game, other than Tom Brady coming back. Right,
it's hard to. It actually takes a lot of the steam out of the game.
It does. Now, what I would look at it this way, and something that I wanted to hit on with Mac Jones today, the one inspiring thing about what I thought Mac Jones did today was he showed some pretty good resiliency, right? He got killed early on in this game, threw his first interception of his career in the NFL, and he did come back, right? He did punch back in the fourth quarter and showed some cojones there at the end of the game to make it a 1-score game. So how does he respond to a game against a really good opponent is going to be interesting. But overall, I think the best thing about the Bucs game for the Patriots is that they can sink their teeth into this defense that they have. And do they really have a defense that they can make a statement with, right? Because first 3 weeks of the season, the defense has been pretty solid, right? And yeah, there was some situational stuff that we just discussed, end of game, closeout type of situations against Miami, and again today against New Orleans. But overall, the defense has been pretty good. So now this is the ultimate test for the defense.
Can I backtrack a little bit on the defense? Yeah. What happened with the linebackers today?
I don't want the Dante Hightower thing. I don't want to go there yet. It's 3 games in. And he came off a huge layoff, obviously, with the COVID thing. So I don't want to go there yet. And my optimistic view on Dante Hightower's snap usage today was that they are trying to limit his snaps so that they can get the best version out of Dante Hightower. Because maybe at this point of his career, he is not.
He's a situational player and not an every down player.
He's not a 90% of the downs type of player. And if you play him on 1st and 2nd down, and then bring him off the field in passing situations,
he wasn't playing 3rd downs before the layoff. Really, I mean, he's been an early down player. At this point, he was a no down player in some cases.
Right. So maybe that is the good news, or that's the positive spin about the Dante Hightower situation. The negative spin about Dante Hightower is that on tape for the first 2 weeks of the season, and then probably out there again today when I watch it back, he has just not looked like himself.
He looks slow. He doesn't look
out of not seeing it well either, right? Which is not something that you would expect from Hightower. So that's
If
something
you're
that
bringing someone signed off the street and they're playing meaningful second half snaps while Hightower's on the sideline, again, we don't know the reason why, but if this was performance based, that says a lot.
yeah. Yeah, and Juwan Bentley also might have left this game
Might have hurt.
with an injury, so we'll have to keep monitoring that as well. Yeah.
Yeah, so both of those things are concerns on the defense for sure. I didn't hear Josh Uche's name called a ton today.
He was inactive. That's why.
Oh my goodness. Okay, I was wondering. I thank you.
It's a lot of moving parts. I get it.
I missed the Uche inactive, so I was wondering what happened there. So they're behind. They were. Was that a injury inactive or was that a?
So he was inactive with a back injury, and when they came into the game without Josh Uche,
missed it.
I figured that Chase Winovich would step into that role and they wouldn't see a huge drop off from Winovich to Uche. Right. It did. Uche through the first 2 weeks of the season, second in the league in pass rush win rate. He's been very, very good in the pass rush for the Patriots. Not very good run player. That's why he's not playing more. But in the rush, he's been particularly productive. And not having him out there, we might have felt it a little bit, especially with how conservative they were playing it defensively as well. And I think Kraft is probably a little bit pissed off. I'm not going to lie. I think he's probably looking at his wallet and his bank statements right now, being like, "What the heck did we do?" Yeah.
Well, this is the thing. It's and that's what's a little it's not just this is the problem with Bill Belichick. He's two people. You can't separate one from the other. Robert Kraft can never walk in there and say, "Hey, Bill, still love you as a coach, but would you want to maybe hand the duties off to someone else?"
Yeah.
This is happening. Thanks, sweetie.
We got Alex, my child Alex Barth was here a second ago, and now
she just wanted me to be hydrated. It's very sweet. She saw my water was out there, and she wanted to bring it to me. Thanks, Rosie.
Very nice.
Very nice. Didn't say a peep. That was as good as it's going to get.
Very professional.
No, so this has always been the issue with when you're going to have that uncomfortable conversation with Bill, because Robert Kraft very rightly, certainly after the, going back to the Bill Parcells and Bobby Greer situation with, you're going to let me, you want me to cook the meal, let me shop for the groceries. Bill shops for the groceries. And Robert Kraft has learned a lesson, which is I'm the money and you are the guy. So do what you want to do and let me get the hell out of your way. But if one of the two isn't performing up to snuff, you can't separate those. And that's what's always going to be awkward here is Bill Belichick has to excel at both things in order to continue to be successful, or a lot of these guys who have both personnel and head coaching responsibilities. So at this point, if Bill Belichick were a rookie GM and had let Tom Brady walk, or a third-year GM who decided very boldly to let the greatest player in the NFL history walk and had missed on a couple of drafts and then spent all this money here, he'd be not just on the hot seat, almost certainly fired by the end of this year if it didn't turn around. And we're not saying it's there yet, but you would not have this much rope. Bill Belichick has as much rope as possible because he is who he is and the greatest of all time. And so, he's been right way more often than he's been wrong when it comes to personnel decisions, but not right about a lot lately on that front. And this is the worst possible start, given the fact that he had the money to do whatever he wanted this offseason. And these are the choices that were made. And right now it's not paying dividends. We might look back at this in a very much like, are you ready to, evaluate the quarterback position sort of stupidity, all due respect to Mike Giardi. But I mean, we were asking back then, is Brady washed? And the answer is no. So again, some of this might look silly a few weeks from now when everyone starts playing better and you start to see what this looks like. Right now, it's a horrible start.
It's a bad start, and I still, my big picture takeaway from this game today, and what I will continue to write until it turns around, is that this is still more on the coaching staff, I feel, than the talent and the personnel. Because I look at the talent and the personnel, especially on the offense side of the football, and I go to the guys that they added on that side of the ball, and I look at their seasons last year with their last teams, their former teams, and all of them produced. right? Hunter Henry put up numbers. Jonnu Smith was a big-time red zone threat for the Titans. Agholor was statistically a top 5 deep threat in the NFL with the Vegas Raiders a year ago. Kendrick Bourne was a nice role player for the San
this is
Francisco
what's
49ers.
frustrating.
This is not. These guys are NFL caliber receivers.
But this is what's frustrating, Evan. Is historically the Patriots have grabbed guys who are being poorly used other places and unlocked their potential here, saying, "No, stupid. This is what you do with this type of talent."
Right.
And we've seen it play out a lot, particularly guys who have high pedigrees, who were drafted first and second round and didn't quite work out places. You bring him here and be like, this is what you got to have this guy do. He's got to be free. He's got to use it. This is almost the opposite. You're taking guys who have had some success, and instead of taking them, in another direction forward, it looks like it's a step back, which is totally un-Patriots-like and un-Belichick-like, because that's been one thing he's been amazing at is, oh, you don't like that guy anymore? I know what I can do with them. And it's not happening here.
The seeds are being planted. Let's revisit this 8-10 weeks from now. And if the Patriots are still looking like an anemic offense, despite all of these guys that they've added in the offseason, then you don't blame this all on Nelson Agholor and Kendrick Bourne and Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith, right? Look at the guys above those guys. They're the ones, the decision makers, right? The guys making the decisions, making the game plans, calling the plays. All of those guys to me are more on the hot seat, if you will, right? The proverbial hot seat, as we like to call it, than Nelson Agholor is, or Jonnu Smith is after a bad game today. You have to start to look at, did they make the right decisions in the offseason? Are they using the personnel properly? Those are the bigger picture questions that we're going to be asking if this continues and we see this 10, 12 weeks from now as well, and we're still in the same rut offensively that they're in now. Then we're going to be talking about the decision makers way more than we're going to be talking about the individual players.
And you have to think so. And I do think right now, the ire is split both places, but I think it's the two things we talked last week. It's frustration because it's been going on for a while, and this dates back to almost the midway point of the 2019 season. And impatience at this point. It's just far longer than any Patriots fan has had to go, watching a team not really be able to figure themselves out. I don't think a lot of the ire yet has fallen on Mac Jones. I do think the general vibe around Mac is, while he's not perfect, he is doing the most that he can with a lot of situations, but you still want to see him play better. But he gets a pass because he's in the third game of his rookie, of his NFL career, straight out of college. So again, it's really hard to hold to a super high standard. The other guys and the coaches, for sure, you're expecting more. So, we didn't make this all about Tom Brady in Tampa. As I said, I'm not super psyched about this preview because it's just going to be, oh, remember how awesome Tom Brady was, and did Bill make a huge mistake? And look, it's the scoreboard already reads Brady 1, Bill 0 in a resounding way. There's no reason to revisit. There's no reason to spend a week talking about it. We know what happened.
Oh, we will, though. We will.
Well, but we know what happened.
We won't necessarily, but the market will.
It will happen, but it's a boring conversation. Yeah. He left. He won a Super Bowl. Brady 1, Belichick 0. And it's going to be Brady 2, Belichick 0, most likely after next Sunday. And it is what it is. But you're not really going to know until years from now whether or not the Patriots did anything that was, and how Mac's going to be and how he's going to evolve and this and that. So again, it's a silly conversation. They're going to play a really good football team, quarterbacked by Tom Brady, and they're not playing good football right now. Should be a far greater concern for most Patriots fans than Tom's coming to town.
Yeah, I'm very interested to see what the crowd reaction is all game. And is there any chance that there's more cheers for Brady in that game than the Patriots?
There might be, because at this point people are fed up. People aren't vibing Mac. People are, they're supporting, but the offense got booed off the field. A Mac Jones quarterbacked offense got booed off the field, and they are booing Mac and the coaches and the players and everybody. It's not good enough right now. So
yeah, and I feel for Mac because he obviously didn't. He could have improved on a lot of things out there today too. And I'm sure when I watch the tape back, there'll be times where I'll say, just like I did last week, he could have made a throw here, he could have made a throw there, whatever the case may be. But overall, from what we saw watching it live, when he was kept clean and when there wasn't immediate pressure in his face, he did make some good downfield throws today, right? And he did try to push the ball down the field more than he did last week as well. So I don't know. I feel like he took a step forward in a lot of ways today. The box score says he took a major step back with 3 turnovers, but ultimately I think Mac played as well as he's played maybe in the first 2 games. I think Miami's still his best game, but regardless, he made some more downfield reads and downfield throws today than what we saw last week, which is positive, right? That's a great sign for the Patriots moving forward. But if they cannot protect him, then none of it will matter, right? If they can't keep him clean in the pocket, then he's going to look like this and not look like the quarterback that he's capable of being. And I put it so much more on the offensive line and the pass protection than anything we saw from Mac.
And again, and I'll put this one up here by Connor. It's still, I don't, like, you know me, Evan, I'm not an excuse guy. I think Mac's ready to play, and I think he can do more, and he should do more in some cases. Yeah. And it is what it is. But at the end of the day, my goodness gracious, for the Justin Fields crowd out there, and again, I'm going to put Evan and myself in that category for people who were desperate for the Patriots to trade up a couple spots and get Fields, and were pretty bummed when it ended up being Mac. Fields, 6 of 20, 68 yards today against a very good Browns defense. But honestly, Fields looked like he'd never played football in his life today. This was a confused person. He took 9 sacks. And again, Bears aren't very good. Cleveland's got a good defense. This was awful. Trey Lance still can't supplant a very average Jimmy Garoppolo. Jimmy Garoppolo is not playing better quarterback than Mac Jones is currently, and Trey Lance can't get on the field in front of him. Trevor Lawrence continues to be extremely inconsistent, and Zach Wilson, you saw Zach Wilson last week. So again, this isn't meant to do anything other than to put some things into perspective, less than to make excuses. Mac is actually doing a decent amount with a little right now, I think, because I don't like a lot of things. I don't like how the play calling. I don't like how the offensive line has been protecting him. And certainly just the weapons aren't playing up to snuff fully. So
yeah, and I see in the chat that we're having a Cam Newton, Mac Jones debate.
It's not a Cam Newton, Mac Jones debate. That's also silly.
It's silly, and I always come back to with Cam versus Mac thing is this. Cam is an 11-year veteran in this league. If you wanted me to consistently compare Cam, 11-year veteran, to a rookie quarterback making his 3rd career start, then you don't think Cam is very good, right? Because Cam should be light years ahead of a guy that's in his 3rd career start. So I don't know.
I don't know what we're talking about, guys. Cam Newton's unemployed right now. It's not a Belichick thing. I mean, there's Cam Newton was unemployed last year. The Patriots are the only team that came calling. Cam Newton was a Band-Aid, and Cam Newton performed admirably last year. And it was not a very good team, and he had to do a lot all by himself. That was a difficult year for him, and they didn't give him much to work with at all. So there's a reason why he got picked, a rookie picked over him. There's a reason why he can't get a job right now. There's quarterback needy teams right now. There's injuries everywhere. It is what it is. Cam Newton is what he is, which was a Band-Aid or a stopgap until you found the guy you're hoping will be your franchise quarterback. It doesn't always work out this way. You could get 2 years into the Mac Jones era and realize this guy's not that great, and then you start shopping for another quarterback. But the point is, you're looking for the next guy. You weren't looking for another season of Cam Newton, which is, again, why I don't understand why this debate keeps getting had at this point.
Because the Cam
it's not one. It wasn't the one or the other. There was a new. There was eventually.
You're 100% right, but
there's eventually going to be a quarterback of the future coming in, whether this year, next year, or whatever. That was always the plan. Cam Newton was not the long-term plan. So it happened this year. Now you have to see if you've got your guy, and that's how it works. It's so,
it's overplayed.
It's such a silly conversation to have. You guys got to move on. In addition to the return of Tom Brady, next week may also mark the return of N'Keal Harry. So everybody get pumped. Yes.
Hey, listen, I'm not going to do it with N'Keal Harry. I'm not going to do it. I almost did. I almost thought about it, but I'll say this about N'Keal on a positive light, because that's what I do with N'Keal. The N'Keal Harry that we saw in training camp, I think, can help this team. if he plays the way that he did in camp, which was definitely more inspiring than how he played in his first couple of years in the league, then at least we talked a ton about how they've tried to take some shots to Nelson Agholor, but they haven't been able to. And maybe another big body vertical guy on the outside like N'Keal could open that up just a little bit. I'm not going to sit here and say that he's going to turn this offense around, but
we have reached the point of desperation in this season already by week 3, where we're hoping for N'Keal Harry to save us.
He's not going to save us. He's not the guy. He's not.
Which is why you didn't want to say what you were going to say. I know.
But when you look at an 11 personnel or 3 wide receiver package, and it has Agholor and N'Keal Harry on the field together, then I do think that is a little bit more vertical based than maybe Kendrick Bourne, Jacoby Myers, and Nelson Agholor, right? When you have Myers and Bourne out there at the same time, you're slow, right? You're just slow. Yeah. And if there's a couple of guys that N'Keal Harry actually runs faster than, it's Kendrick Bourne and Jacoby Myers, right? I mean, he does actually move better down the field than those two guys. So maybe.
It's the Harry versus Brady game. That's how it's going to be built.
No, it's definitely not.
Anyway, we've been kicking about an hour, so we're going to wrap it here. But I appreciate everybody who hung out and got angry with us and got angry at us. That's also allowed. Totally fine. That's what it's there for. So thanks again. We will have some more stuff coming out on our YouTube channel. Subscribe there if you haven't already. Patriots Press Pass on YouTube. We are so freaking close to 10K subs, and I want to get there. You guys can help push us over the top, so please do. You'll get Evan's in-season content as well as Patriots Beat podcast and other things, news, press conference news and notes. Some more videos coming out today after the game. What time are you guys tomorrow, Evan?
We're probably going to do it Tuesday, but we're going to be on a Tuesday afternoon.
Tuesday afternoon for Patriots Beat.
Yes.
Okay, so just to wrap it, Patriots lose 1-2. You've got Tampa next week,
Good
and
luck.
the Bucs are down 21-7 early in the second half here.
So we got an angry Tampa Bay
team.
Even better.
Trap game. We joked about it, Evan, that Tom Brady might actually have his eyes on next week a little bit, but this is a tough one for them. Deshaun just got free by about 30 yards. All right, so again, thanks everybody. We're gonna sign off. Thanks for hanging out. We love you guys. We thanks for joining us, and keep it here for more Patriots coverage.